Welcome to episode 29 of the Sweet Nature Cruisecast. Hi, I'm Linz, as always I'm joined by Marky.
Hello.
Hello, and today we're talking whether it's a good idea to book a maiden voyage. But first, a little mood music.
What did you think of today's mood music?
No.
I was trying to go with, it's a bit mysterious. Is something going to go right? Is it going to go wrong?
It's kind of like a detective show, but a really rubbish one.
It kind of did have that vibe to it. It's a fair comment. Okay, we won't class this week's mood music as a winner.
I can see me with a magnifying glass.
Can I have a big trilby?
If I've got a magnifying glass.
Super. Shall we talk about what we're going to talk about this week then?
Yes.
So we're going to be having a chat about whether it's a good idea to book a maiden voyage or even close to a maiden voyage on a cruise ship.
Mm-hmm. And what we're classing as close?
Within the first couple of months, I would
Closer
say.
than close?
Closer than close. We've also got some cruise news, and we have a cruise confession as well.
Lovely.
But let's kick it off with sort of having a chat about maidens. It's probably worth...
Not books and wenches kind of
Not
maiden.
books and wenches as in from sort of medieval England. But it's probably worth clarifying what we meant by maiden, because you asked earlier on what are we classing that as. So a maiden for me is if you're a paying passenger, so the first paying passengers on a ship, when either it's brand new or it's had a major refurbishment. So it could have gone from one line to another and been completely redone.
And
I don't just mean went into dry dock for a few weeks.
No, I mean a facelift, I understand.
Yeah, completely redone on there. Should we talk about some recent examples of ones?
Yes.
Yeah, because I've jotted some notes on a couple of them to remind me of myself. On
Hit
them.
me with your notes.
So, and you can feel free to comment on any of these.
Okay.
So these are all problematic maidens to different levels. And again,
Marian.
we're not talking about you
No, I'm
or
gonna
people
say,
from the Middle Ages.
Me, I am a maiden. Like the Sheriff of Nottingham, he would class Maid Marian as a problematic maiden.
I'm fairly sure Maid Marian was classed as problematic.
Go on.
Just a quick drink of wine to wet my lips there. So, very, very recently, we've just had Norwegian's new Aqua. So NCL Aqua. Now, this didn't have the sort of normal issues that we've seen when maidens happen, which could be a delay or things not working.
Or they cancel it.
Or they cancel it.
With like a 2 days notice.
We'll come on to that with some other examples. But what they did with this one, because it hadn't had sort of a proper run out, so to speak, it had its sea trials and everything like that, it had been certified. But they picked up there was going to be some bad weather because its maiden was going from Southampton
straight across to Boston.
Which we've done that journey before. We did it on Celebrity.
It wasn't a maiden though, but go on.
It's not a long one. It should take seven days from start to finish, 7 nights. At the very last minute,
and by last minute, people actually put the luggage on.
People are already loaded luggage up and in the terminal. They then decided that they were going to change it to go to New York rather than Boston.
Yeah.
And it was no longer 7 nights, it was 10.
That's crazy. And was it not 9 nights initially and then became 10 nights?
Well, I'm not sure if it was 9 nights / 10 days or 10 nights. There's a little bit up in the air about that.
Are they there yet? They've not arrived yet, have they?
No, it's still going, isn't it? Or it's imminently going to be there.
Oh, bless them.
But they gave 0 notice on that, and they've just said it was because of the weather. Well, we've been on ships. We did the transatlantic
North
16 months ago on Apex, and there were storms on the way.
We were middle transatlantic for that one.
But there were storms en route, and the captain just kept changing. It didn't delay us getting to any of our destinations. Didn't delay in that.
Saying that, though, we did arrive in the Azores a little bit later on in the day.
But by like a couple of hours, not 3 days.
No, that's true.
So apparently the service in the restaurants on board Aqua has been a little bit slower, and there's been some technical issues, but nothing major.
That can happen even if the ship sets off on time. I'm thinking of you, Queen Anne.
Yeah. Now, if you look at that sort of delay and how late it was, that for me is a weird bit. I know weather is uncontrollable and it's just part of cruising, but to delay it by 3 days and change where you're going, and it wasn't like it were a hurricane.
No, and people had the flights organised and transfers organised. And
well, apparently over 200 people didn't get on it, including Ben
and David.
They'd got their luggage on. And then to rub sort of salt into the wound, people had to wait about 5 hours for the luggage to be taken back off the ship.
And there was no representative either from NCL.
No, it was a very strange thing. But again, a maiden voyage, it set off on time, it wasn't delayed. And by that I mean... on the day, I mean, it wasn't delayed like a week or 2 weeks.
No, they had it. They took delivery when they said they would.
Yeah.
It set off on its maiden when they said they would. It just wasn't arriving when they said they would or where they said it would arrive.
It's funny you should say about taking delivery, because for the last couple of years post-pandemic, that's been a major problem for maiden voyages, and it certainly put a lot of people off. Mm-hmm. Now, whilst we weren't on a maiden voyage, we were due to be on the second voyage on Sun Princess.
Yes. The second voyage, was it always going to be the second voyage, but then it became the first voyage?
Yeah, and then it became no voyage. And Sun Princess was probably one of the ones, and to be clear, we loved the ship.
Yeah, we had fun, yeah.
Once we got on it. But it had... just about every tick box that you can have for a maiden voyage problem. So it was delayed for the first couple of cruises. So the first couple didn't happen. It was, I think, the third one that became then the maiden.
How long was it when we were cancelled? How many hours? It wasn't a lot, was it?
3 days.
3 days.
So we got notified 3 days before.
Because we were getting super excited and we were tracking it from space.
We'd already done the washing to pack. That's how close it was.
It was all kind of getting organised, yeah.
But then when it was still sat in the shipyard, we were like, this might not be happening. So it was delayed. Cruises were cancelled. Then there were restaurants that weren't open.
Like Love by Brito.
And the Spellbound full experience, including the restaurant. The main theatre wasn't open for any of the productions.
No.
But we did go in the main theatre when we were on there because it had some of the guest people in there. So we had a comedian, we saw some singers in there, we saw a juggler. But we didn't have the big shows that we were talking about. Deck 19 wasn't open, and subsequently, well, by that I'm on about things like the Skyrail thing, whatever it was going to be called, eventually it just never happened, and it's now being removed. Sanctuary was open, but that subsequently changed in the couple of months after it came out, and specialty restaurants have physically moved location.
Oh yes, they have, yeah.
So there's been lots of changes on that. So I think if we went on Sun Princess tomorrow, it would be not unrecognisable, but there would be massive differences to a cruise ship that we only went on a year ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So again, it's when you're talking about those sort of maiden voyages, you have to be prepared that, especially when it's a brand new type of ship like Sun Princess, or a Sphere class, brand new one, there's going to be some stuff that ultimately they change because they don't work when they get a lot of passengers on board.
Now, do we feel, if you're a certain type of person and you like living on the edge, do you feel it's worth booking a maiden on thinking, well, it maybe happen, maybe it won't, but if it doesn't happen, I'm going to get quite a bit of cruise credit and a good deal on my next booking with that cruise line?
Which generally does happen if it gets cancelled with relatively short notice. Princess, for example, gave really good cruise credit.
We ended up going to Alaska.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have gone to Alaska last year had it not been for Sun Princess being cancelled, and we ended up with a load of credit.
Yeah.
So for us, we still got on Sun Princess relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And we then got an Alaska cruise. So
we got an Alaska cruise.
Out well.
It wasn't a planned Alaska cruise.
No. And it was very stressful on the day that we found out it wasn't happening.
Oh, so miserable.
We'd got holidays booked, we'd got loads of stuff sorted. It was...
Sometimes the universe has a plan.
But it worked out. Another good example and I'll come back to the living on the edge bit when we talk about pros to it, is Brilliant Lady.
Yes.
Now, we're due to go on her next March
Yes.
for a Panama cruise. She was meant to come out 18 months ago
Yeah, 'cause
because
we had friends
doing the first transatlantic on her.
Yeah. And then it just disappeared. It wasn't they were given the heads up that it wasn't happening. The cruise just, poof, disappeared.
And I'm not sure, and we do love Virgin, we talk about that
Oh, I
a
love
lot.
Virgin.
They may be in one of the cruise stories today as well. We do love them. Their communication around that was, at best, weak. If I'm being kind.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they've ever really said what the reasons were that it was delayed so long. Because the ship's finished.
We've seen it.
We saw it last month when we were on Windstar.
Yeah.
She was it Mallorca or Valencia when we
Malaga.
were there? Malaga. So neither of those two that I said. But we saw her and she's been cruising around the Med for the last sort of, it appears, year.
Yeah.
But she's due to come into operation in a couple of months' time.
Yes.
But there's been a big delay on that. I don't expect her to be delayed again from that one. But when you asked at the start, what are we classing a maiden period as? And really that first couple of months you could expect problematic. Certainly the first couple of cruises.
Yeah.
If you had any of the Brilliant Lady ones booked for the first 18 months, they got cancelled.
Yeah, I think they did all right cruise credit-wise, though, didn't they? They did all right. Okay.
Then, just talking about another couple of ones as well, where it's maybe not been as obvious to a lot of people as, say, Sun Princess or Virgin, where they were much bigger issues on there. Icon of the Seas.
Icon.
So, Icon launched on time. People loved it. It had its media cruises before. People continue to love it. Were you aware they had to cancel the next cruise after its first one?
No.
Yeah. So it had, during its first cruise, they had to cancel going into St Thomas when they had major propulsion issues, and it couldn't then go as fast.
Oh,
they ended
my
up. I assume they ended up sort of one of the pods down.
Yeah.
The following cruise had to be cancelled so it could go into repairs for a week.
Wow. You
So,
see,
again, even when it's something of that size, it's had sea trials, it went transatlantic to get there.
Something can happen.
There.
Something you have just to be fail to prepare to fail. I think it is with these cruises.
Another couple of ones as well
Oh,
where
my goodness.
there's been significant things, and again, all of these ones that we're talking about are pretty much post-pandemic.
Okay.
Queen Anne was delayed 4 months.
She was delayed. She was gone from February to May.
From January to May.
Was it January to May?
Yeah.
And then when people got on, things weren't as smooth as they were expecting.
Well, the biggest issue they had, because it had been delayed and they didn't have any sort of shakedown cruises, which they normally have like a friends and family type cruise a media cruise or staff cruise. It didn't have any of those. Most of the staff who were on there, certainly it appears in the restaurant side of things,
Yes.
had never been on a Cunard ship before and had literally been on there a couple of days.
Even in the speciality, which you would expect them to be like top notch.
Yeah, so they had a lot of issues. They had issues with tech on there where they ended up having to take orders on a notepad, which I don't say that's so bad. P&O Avia, when it came out, its one had major IT issues.
And then it bumped to Christmas. The Christmas cruise was the first cruise.
Yeah.
Because Tom and Dom Travel was on that one.
Yeah. So it still happened, but they had major delays and restaurant issues throughout and things just not working as they wanted to.
Yeah.
Then you had Wonder of the Seas.
Wonder of the Seas?
Yeah, which again now, we don't think about it as a problematic one, but it had a load of issues with entertainment.
Okay.
The escape room wasn't ready. They were still building it during the Maiden. And there were props missing that they couldn't get shipped over from Miami in time.
Oh, my goodness.
So, for instance, on the ice skating, there's meant to be a load of props on there. All that they had was one lonely deck chair. So I'm sure people who watched it still loved it and probably didn't even notice. But you do get those ones. And you get sort of more obscure things, and these will bother you to different degrees. But Disney Wish, when it came out, couldn't get any of its specialty beers that it had been advertising due to supply issues.
I mean, that is, compared to 3 days out cancelling on Sun Princess, you'd be like, speciality beer. I can deal with that. There's always cocktails.
But for some people, that might be something that really stresses them out.
Made them want to book, but I guess, yeah.
Then just another couple of ones on the smaller ones, because it's not just the big ships on there. Emerald Cruises, I think it's called Azora.
It's fancy, that one.
Yeah. Its crew were forced to purchase temporary furniture en masse using credit cards after the furniture for the pre-order that they pre-ordered for the ship didn't arrive.
Oh my
to the shipyard in Vietnam when it needed to set off. So they went to like the local home base or whatever it was out there, IKEA, and bought a lot of temporary patio furniture.
Wow.
So again, when you got on there, you would have this level of expectation of luxury and find that you're sitting on plastic patio furniture.
I'm sure they forked out for bamboo.
No, I've seen some pictures. A lot of it were plastic patio ones.
Oh my goodness!
Again, I'm sure that was fixed very, very quickly. But it's that risk of that Maiden. As a matter onward,
yes,
it saw workers still patching physical holes in the ship and fixing the pool deck, and passengers were told a few days before that they had to bring their own hairdryers because the hairdryers wouldn't be there.
Nobody wants to see a physical hole on the ship.
You don't want to see a hole. You'd be quite happy if they said take your own hairdryer. You wouldn't have a problem.
I would. It depends if we were flying Ryanair though, because then it's
it's taking up
my luggage
valuable
allowance.
ways.
Yeah, but I'd be quite happy as long as I could plug it in, because sometimes my hairdryer doesn't like to travel. It's a bit of a home bird.
Yeah, that's another point. So there's massive differences there of ones that we've talked about, but why do they happen? Well, supply chain issues have certainly been a thing. I
was going to swear then. Things happen.
Yeah, things go wrong. You can happen. Swear on here occasionally.
Oh, no,
it's
I'm not swearing. I've got Rosie.
But I think there's also been, since the pandemic, a lack of shakedown cruises. It seems to me, and I might be wrong, because I might be misremembering this, but cruises seem to be ready quite a long way before they put passengers on, before the pandemic, where they'd have 2 or 3 test cruises.
Yeah, maybe.
Plus other bits and
pieces. I'm
just
trying to remember.
And they don't seem to have them down as much anymore.
No.
And the first shakedown cruise in some ones are the ones where passengers get on.
Yeah.
Which, logistically, there's a lot of stuff going on a cruise ship.
Yeah. And also you need your staff to be, your team to be like at their top level, and not necessarily when it's the first cruise and they don't know what. Okay.
Let's get on to some pros for Maiden, because you touched on this earlier.
Okay.
Are there any pros to booking a Maiden other than you being the first on something?
I want to say, if it doesn't happen, you get a hefty cruise credit back, an offer.
You can do.
Depending how close it is.
Yeah, if it was cancelled 18 months out, you're probably just going to get your money back and a little bit of onboard credit.
If we hadn't have had that happen, there's no way we would have gone to Alaska.
No, we ended up essentially nearly getting a free cruise from
Well, I wouldn't say free. We still had to pay. But we didn't pay the going rate for Alaska.
No, because we had the cruise credit. It was substantially less.
Yeah.
There's no way we would have done Alaska last year.
No. And I wouldn't have had my existential crisis.
Looking out at 3 in the morning.
In the sunrise. The amount.
You wouldn't have had the whales coming up to see you when you were eating your chips on the balcony.
In no bra. It just.
I don't think the bra had any sort of bearing on the whales coming up to see you.
I don't know. It could have acted as a barrier. And then just my natural maternal instinct drew to the baby whale to me.
The wild baby whale, that's it.
I'm not making up a baby whale.
No.
I'm just saying.
Now, you do also, when we're talking about pros of being on a Maiden, the cruise lines will often give unique gifts to people being on there.
Yeah, you get some merch, don't you?
Yeah, and it's stuff that you never see again in the future. They just do it on those ones. Mm-hmm. And often, if you book them early enough, because they do, Maidens pretty much always sell out.
Yeah, they're very popular, to say how precarious they are.
With an exception being NCL Aqua, it hadn't sold out at the
time,
but
it was
and it ended up with 200 passengers left.
It was straight across, though, from Southampton to Boston.
Doing a transatlantic as a Maiden
then New York.
less common.
Yeah.
But we did look at that ourselves.
We did look at it, and but I can't imagine the conversation I would have had with my boss if.
Saying it's actually 3 days longer than I thought it was.
I mean,
Now, I wonder, because I haven't read anything about this. You might have read it, so correct me if you know it. If you'd bought the drinks package in advance and then they extended it by 3 days, did they then give you the drinks package for 10 days, or did you have to pay for it?
I'd like to think they gave you it for 10 days.
Not said, by the way,
Oh,
you now
can you
need to give us a
imagine?
load more money.
Can you
I could
imagine?
definitely imagine that they did tell people they had to pay for it.
okay.
I like to think that they would have give them it.
Yeah.
I think people got some onboard credit, but
They probably said
it's
use
still
that.
going on, so we'll
Yeah.
find out about this in the
Yeah.
future. I think there is a strong argument for waiting several months beyond a maiden.
Yeah. But we would never have gone to Alaska.
No. Would any of these stuff that I've just read out there, and there's been quite a few there, and most of them post-pandemic, are there anything that I've said within there that would really discourage you from going on a maiden or a near maiden?
I don't think it's a case of going on a maiden. I think it's a case of booking a maiden. Would I have any issue? No. Would I think that I was getting on it? No. Would I be happy if it was cancelled and I get to go somewhere that I always wanted to go and have an existential crisis? Yes. So I'm quite happy to do that. However, I can imagine a lot of people would be gutted.
Yeah, there is, based on what happened with Sun and what happened with a couple of other ones as well. 'Cause cruises do get cancelled, not just in sort of maidens; they get cancelled all the time for various reasons. But one thing that I would say to people as a proper tip, if you are going on a maiden or a near maiden, and we've got one coming up later, which is a near maiden, so it's within the first month.
It could be a maiden.
It could even be a maiden. But when we've been talking about it, we were like, well, we should really book the flights with the cruise line.
Yes.
Because if you look at what happened to a lot of people who were flying over from the States with Sun Princess,
Yeah.
right, and other cruise lines that this happened to as well, that their insurance didn't cover them
No.
for the cruise getting cancelled because
No.
the flight wasn't cancelled.
No.
Whereas I don't think I would be willing to take a near maiden
No.
and not book it as a package through
The cruise
through
line.
Karen and Stuart and through
Yeah.
the cruise line.
No, I
'Cause
understand.
I would rather have that level of security knowing if one's cancelled,
Yeah.
I haven't got to fight with insurance and airlines to try and get
I've got to
money
book
back.
them holidays, I've just remembered.
We do need to book those holidays. So it wouldn't stop us doing one again, but it's sort of, there's just a couple of things to be worried, be aware of.
Yeah, just
Not
it might
worried
happen.
about.
The universe has a plan.
Yeah.
There's no free will. You may end up on that cruise. The universe decides.
I would
May
say
not.
though, if you do like things to be as close to being perfect as they can be, then you're probably better off waiting until the
it's
new
bedded
cruise
in.
line's bedded
Yeah.
in 6 months.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
which point, 6 months in, it's
Yeah.
probably fine. And just leave it a little bit longer.
Oh, you're going to have a load of stories to tell about what happened.
What went wrong?
Maybe you could start a channel. Or maybe you have a channel.
Yeah. And then
And
you
it-
can talk about things.
Yeah.
Would you like a cruise confession?
Yes, please.
Okay. This one's a little bit of a saucy one.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit saucy.
Oh.
And it's from Steve.
Oh,
That's his real name.
Steve. Is it Steve? Oh, we're not
No.
saying.
Well, it's a Steve who you know, Steve, but not necessarily the Steve that you're thinking of,
Okay.
Steve. So, oh dear, this still makes us chuckle.
Oh, God.
It was our very first cruise, a Mediterranean adventure with MSC.
Nice. MSC, okay.
Yeah, and the weather was absolutely gorgeous.
Uh-oh.
One afternoon, the sun was beating down and we were both feeling incredibly relaxed, perhaps even a little too relaxed.
Uh-oh.
We were on our balcony gazing out at the
Oh,
most
no,
breathtaking
Steve.
view. The ocean was like glass, a perfect mirror reflecting the endless blue sky,
Lovely.
with nothing but a distant horizon in sight.
Nice.
Which, nothing better than those, isn't it?
No, it's beautiful.
Feeling rather light-hearted, and maybe a touch more than light-hearted, I leaned over to my partner and with a cheeky grin suggested we come on board.
What?
COME. right there and then.
Come on board.
That's a euphemism.
Oh, my God, Steve. Let me have my drink.
I did warn you a bit.
You said saucy. You didn't say erotic.
It's not erotic. The response was an immediate and rather firm, not bloody likely. It came the sharp reply.
Okay, saucy, not erotic. Okay.
What if someone sees us? She exclaimed. Then the penny dropped for her, and the laughter was instant and infectious. Still giggling, I couldn't help but laugh too. Who? I asked, gesturing around our secluded bedroom and balcony and the distant vistas. We're midship, deck 14, and we're in the bedroom.
So they're not on the balcony?
No, they've gone back inside that part. Oh, the sheer silliness of it all. It's a memory that always brings a smile to our faces, a funny reminder of our early cruising days. So there's not really a forgiveness there, because no one was affected. I think it's more them getting that off the chest.
I mean...
It's a lovely story.
I mean, that wouldn't happen to me because I'm not that type of person, but...
I'm not commenting.
Don't comment.
I'm
You've
not.
no right.
So no forgiveness needed.
No.
And thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. I thought it was going one way, it went another, it took me on a journey, very much like a Mills and Boone. More Mills and Boone than Lady Chatterley.
It was, yeah. More, yeah.
I thought it was going to go
You
Lady
think it was going to go like Lady Chatterley or 50 Shades type thing? And
yes.
It was more Mills and Boone.
It was more Mills and Boone.
Yeah.
And that's nice. That's nice for
But we've got to keep it
our
sort
little podcast.
sort of PG-13.
That's another podcast.
That's a different... There are plenty of other podcasts.
Late Night Linzi reads...
Erotic confessions.
Erotic confessions.
The thing is, that'd probably do much better than this podcast. Maybe that's one for the future.
Let us know in the comments below. Would you like Late Night Linzi? And by Late Night Linzi, she's on more of this. To
read that
do
erotic cruise confessions.
erotic cruise confessions. What would we call the channel?
Well, it's still... Would it not still be under Sweet Nature, but it'd be Sweet Natured Late... Or Late Night Linzi Live. Late Night Linzi After Dark. You can also suggest some titles for that podcast as well.
People love Late Night Linzi After Dark.
They do. But you've got to be careful what you wish for if you start voting for this.
And you know what? I think it'd do well.
I
think it might help you go to sleep. It'd be like,
I don't think it'd help you go to sleep.
I know it would, like the people with their sound baths.
I really don't think it'd have the same effect as a sound bath of you reading out erotic stories.
Of course it would. Or like the rain and thunder noises.
No.
I think you could put this on.
I think it'd probably wake people up more.
No, I've got a soothing voice.
You got a soothing voice that you'd be reading out erotic fiction or erotic truth.
No, it's erotic truth. That's even more erotic.
Yeah, I don't think that's helping people go to sleep.
Send your erotic confessions.
Right, well...
I've had quite a few glasses of wine, and I've had one of those days again at work.
In a few weeks' time, when I'm reading out the comments from this to you and saying, "Oh, people really want to be safe," you're like, "I didn't offer to do that." Like, yes, you did. Here's the video. Would you like to hear some cruise news?
I don't know now.
There's no erotic podcast news in this. I'll try and find some for
no, please don't. Please don't.
Cruise story number 1.
Okay.
I said we had some Virgin news within here.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last one, we touched on that they were going to be doing a load of new entertainment on
Yes,
board.
you did. Yes, you did.
So what they've also now announced for Brilliant Lady is a new restaurant concept.
I'm loving it.
So this is in Razzle Dazzle when they redid Scarlet Lady fairly recently and she had a dry dock.
Yeah.
They did Lucky Lotus by Razzle Dazzle.
I like the sound of that. That sounded fabulous months ago.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I like that they've now got, or they're now going to have a couple of different restaurants on each ship because it gives you a different reason to go on them.
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to
they figured it. They figured it.
But you're still getting that vibe.
We said it, but they figured it.
We did, yeah. So on Brilliant Lady, it's going to be, I'm definitely going to butcher however this is meant to be pronounced, but it's either Rocco or Rojo. So it's Rojo.
Now,
by Razzle Dazzle.
I think you'll actually find that the J is a H and it's a Rojo.
You think it's going to be... Well, it's Spanish.
So Rojo.
Rojo? Well...
I'll ask my friend who speaks Spanish.
That doesn't help us right now, but it will help us in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So this new concept is going to feature food designed by some really renowned chefs. Mm-hmm. Justin Severino and Nate Hobart. who are 4 times James Beard
Oh my,
Foundation
no,
nominees.
James Beard. Does James Beard exist? I've never seen a photograph of him.
I don't know if he's a person.
I don't know
It's
if
a
he...
foundation, isn't it? He
Yeah,
must
but-
have been a person at some point.
but is he a
Basically,
person?
It's a foundation that makes sure the food is the best it can be in restaurant service, etc. So again, we talked about when we were doing our food review on Windstar of how pink agave we felt compared
I love
to the
pink
food
agave,
level.
yeah.
But as a ship-wide one, Windstar was phenomenal. When it comes to this on Windstar, we had Quadro 44, which was their
Quadro.
Spanish tapas.
Yes.
They are a James Beard Foundation partnership cruise
Is James Beard like James Bond? And it's basically like it's a different person, but you are James Beard.
The name's Beard, James Beard.
Don't do that. Can't do that. Don't do that.
So I'll tell you a bit more about the restaurant anyway.
Go on.
So Spanish gastronomy, as we've already hinted on.
Love
so
a bit of
it's
Spanish
fancy
gastronomy.
tapas stuff. But it's not just going to be in an evening.
Oh,
So we've still got Razzle Dazzle in the morning
Love
for
a bit of
breakfast.
Razzle Dazzle,
the
yeah.
Razzle Dazzle breakfasts
Yeah.
are renowned. But then from brunchy lunch onwards, it becomes rojo, whatever we're calling it.
I'm going to say 4-hour brunch.
I can. What
All the
I'm
drink.
hoping in
Yeah.
there is like we've got in Wake with the unlimited mimosa Bloody Marys thing, unlimited sangria.
Yes.
And if you've not thought of that already,
Yes.
Virgin, you can have that for free. Claim it's your idea.
And
but
do the
it.
champagne sangria, because that's always fabulous.
Oh, we got absolutely destroyed when we went to
Went to
Tenerife
Tenerife, oh
once
my.
to the degree that you couldn't get out of bed the following day.
I could only eat cheese toasters.
So maybe not the champagne one then. But some of their really well-known dishes that they've done stateside, I think you might like the look
Okay,
of this
go
one.
on, hit me.
Oxtail montadito,
Okay.
which is a combination of braised oxtail
Nice.
with caramelised onion and mahon cheese on a crispy crostini.
Crostini.
Yeah.
Okay.
But during the day, it's going to have lighter menu.
That's okay.
That's in the evening. They're the fancier tapasy type
Crostini
stuff.
for him. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be like little startery ones. But during the day, they're going to have like frittatas and ham croquettes or jamon croquettes.
Love a croquette.
What's your thoughts on that? Are we happy with this one, given that we will get to try that
Yes,
next year?
I approve.
It'll be really interesting to see how that does. Like I say, I'm really pleased that they're starting to put some different restaurants on each one, but keep them within a theme.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what the change on Valiant Lady and Resilient Lady.
Yes.
Before 'cause Valiant Lady's got its dried up before we've got our group cruise next year.
Yes, that's true.
Resilient Lady hasn't announced it yet, but
No.
I'm assuming it'll be in
Yeah.
2026 or 2027.
Yeah.
And they'll update that as well. So I was very pleased about that. Cruise news story number 2.
Oh, I'm done with the cruise news
Well,
now.
these are quite interesting ones, and they're
I'm
quite
nearly
quick.
running out of my wine.
You've still got enough to get
and I
through these
really
two.
want a bath.
Crescent
Sorry,
Seas.
a bath.
A bath. Crescent Seas. If you recall, we mentioned them recently because they were the ones where you could spend $8 million on a cabin to go live on it.
We didn't go for that though, did we?
We didn't buy it, no. We didn't even look at it.
No, we didn't look at it.
They've already announced what their second ultra luxury one's going to be
Oh, blimey.
before the first one's come out. Because if you recall, the last one, they bought Regent's Seven Seas Navigator from them.
Okay, so
That's
what are
they're
they doing
converting.
now?
So the new one is Oceania Cruises Insignia.
Blooming heck.
So the previous one, I think, was 490-ish, something like that, passengers. The Oceania previous one is a 700 guest one, so it's a little bit bigger.
Yes.
They're gonna. It's coming into their fleet in late 2027.
Okay.
It's having a £50 million renovation, so I would
Wow.
definitely then class that as a maiden when you get on that.
Yeah.
And once completed, the ship will offer 290 residences
Oh my goodness.
at a cost between $650,000
For a cupboard.
and $10 million.
Let's go in between. I always find when somebody does some pricing like this, we have a budget entry level price and then you have the top whack price, and people tend to go for the middle. So let's go for the middle.
At $5 million.
At around 5.5 million. And this is dollars, I'm guessing.
It is, yes. So,
Yeah, $5.5 million. We can do that.
yeah, depending on...
I mean, what is a dollar
exchange rate.
today?
Well, who can say?
Controversial.
It's definitely not 2-1. They were a long while
Oh, I
ago.
loved that. Okay.
But even then, that's still very
Okay.
expensive. Final cruise news
Oh, darling, you're killing me.
story. You'll like this one.
Go on.
Disney Adventure, which starts cruising out of Asia,
Which is
Singapore,
the
this
huge,
December,
huge
their
Disney.
new mega one,
Yeah.
has announced who its stern characters are going to be on the back of the ship.
Okay.
Because each one has a different one.
Yeah.
Any ideas? Who do you think it is?
Mulan.
Milan? Are you saying that just because it's Asia?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm going to... Who's in Mulan? You one lucky bug. Or
Eddie Murphy's
Mushu.
dragon,
Mushu.
That would have been great. I would have liked that. But as it is, for the first time ever, it's Captain Mickey Mouse and Captain Minnie Mouse.
That's boring.
And I've seen the picture of it. They're both sat on the anchor at the back, painting the ship. Which I feel that's a little bit
Cop-out.
of a... well, I wasn't going to say a cop-out. I was going to say a bit below the position that the captain should be doing of painting the ship.
I do too.
I think Mushu, with his little fancy tail, could have done it much better.
Mushu would have looked beautiful. Love Mushu.
I would have liked to have seen Mushu.
I can't remember what Mushu means now. I think it's quite cheeky.
They could have had Mushu and the Lucky Bug. I can't remember what the
Doing
cricket's name.
what?
Painting the back of it.
Okay.
Lucky Bug could have sat on Mushu's head.
Oh, that'd be lovely. I think Mushu means something interesting.
Well, we will look up that afterwards because I'm not going to go check Google while we're doing this right now.
Okay.
And that brings us to the end of the cruise cast.
Wow, well, I finished my wine.
I will cheers you with mine that I've still got a little bit left.
That's more a clank.
You've still got a little bit left in there.
That's such a clank.
Oh, that's because there's no alcohol in yours. It's just a little sippy. And shall I play us out with a little bit of mood music?
Yes, play us out with a little bit of mood music.